Everything we hear is an opinion and not a fact. And everything we see is the perspective and not the truth. But if I told you that the way we view the world, our unique perspective, is already shaping our reality more than we even realize? Well, in this episode, I'll be diving into the idea of perspective and how it shapes our lives, happiness, and becomes even the new lens through which we see opportunity or limitation. This is Beizzo's Kiboozi. Well, basically, for those that don't know, perspective is how each individual sees the world. The foundation of your perspective is in your belief systems. Life is full of BS, and that's your belief systems. Whether it is from your parents, belief systems from the community, belief systems from your experiences, culture, and the world as whole. Our belief systems define our perspective. But however, we have the power to challenge them. For example, in ancient times, people used to live in monarchies. And in monarchies, for those that don't know, power was seen to come from the divine. But however, there was a small change in perspective by just two individuals, the likes of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. These individuals thought that actually power should not come from God or should not be divine, but power should come from the people that are being governed. And that's how a new perspective, the perspective of republicanism, came about. Our belief systems define our perspective, and a new perspective can open worlds that we have never seen before. At that time, people never believed that they could also have power. They thought that power was for only a few given people in the world. Power was for only a few families, a few nobles in the world. But the change in perspective by two famous gentlemen led to actually the world that we live in now, the democracy, republicanism, things of that sort. Even just the idea of the earth being the center of the universe. There was a man called Copernicus. So Copernicus was the only person that believed that the earth may not be the center of the universe. And very many people at the beginning didn't believe in him, because the earth being at the center of the universe was the perspective, the belief system that people had at that time. Religious leaders, any philosophers and all what, at that time, they all thought that the earth is the center of the universe. However, Copernicus and his group, they thought of it that, there is more to this. And they came up with the idea that the earth revolves in a solar system and the sun being the center of it. And Copernicus and his group, that new perspective led to the world of astronomy, the world of thinking about what's out there in space, going to the moon. That was the change in perspective led to the world we had never seen, the world we never knew would exist. Perspective can also define your happiness, because happiness is less about external circumstances and more about how we perceive those circumstances. It's about what happens to us. It's about how we interpret and respond to what's happening. There was an experiment done by a professor in the university, and this professor got a glass. He poured in water and then asked his students, is this glass half empty or half full? So this simple question reflects a deeper truth about perspective. Two people can look at the same situation and see completely different things. One may see scarcity and the other may see abundance. One may see failure and the other may see a lesson. There's a good story I know about a farmer who lived in an area, very many miles of land, and this farmer used to grow a lot of maize on this land over the years. So one year, due to severe drought, his entire crop failed. So his neighbors were devastated because they used to feed off this farmer. They were saying things like, this must be the end for this gentleman. There is no more hope. But however, this farmer saw things differently. He looked at the dry, cracked ground and said, perhaps this is a sign for me to diversify. So he got all his little money that was left. He went on to buy some goats and cows. So when he bought some goats and cows, he later started to grow a big dairy farm. He didn't sit down wailing in despair and wondering if there was anyone to save him. He got his little money, diversified, got some goats, got some animals to start a dairy farm. What's the lesson from this? That his perspective of failure turned out to be an opportunity to try something new. And this was the key to his happiness, because later, when you're successful, you become more happy. Okay, there is an attachment to that. So happiness is a choice, and often that choice is rooted in our perspective. How we think about something, how we perceive something will gauge our happiness. Some of you may see the world as half empty. Some of you may see your world as half full. So I'll switch some gears into relationships. Whether romantic, family, or even just your friends, our perspective on someone often determines the health and longevity of that relationship. There is a friend of mine I knew of that never spoke to his father. And why? His father was too critical. His father was too... He said that his father was too critical, too unloving, and used to point out everything he used to do. For this friend of mine, that was his perspective. His father's continuous lectures, high expectations, to him, it meant that the father did not care about him. But over time, this friend of mine went and talked to his uncle. Now, his uncle is someone, obviously, the brother to the father. This is someone that knows where the father is coming from. After a long conversation with his uncle, this friend of mine realized that actually his father's strictness and rigidity came from a place of fear and deep love. His father had grown from a place of poverty and was determined to see that his children lived better lives. When my friend started seeing things in that angle, his perspective about his father changed, and he stopped taking his father's harsh words personally and started to appreciate them as care. The moral of the story is, sometimes all it takes is a shift in perspective to see the love that has been there all along. Relationships often improve when we step out of our own viewpoint, because all of us have our own viewpoint and we are entitled to that viewpoint. So when we step out of it, normally we improve our relationships. If you start to see how someone perceives you before you use only your perception, you end up lining into a better or a healthy relationship. We don't always have to be right sometimes. We just need to see things differently, because like I've said, you may see something to seem annoying and the other person may see it as something that is very minor, because we all have different triggers. We all have different perceptions. Life is full of ups and downs, and sometimes it feels like the downs keep coming. Like the famous words of Mark Twain, life can feel like one thing after the other. But that's life. If you perceive your life to be one thing like another, it is going to just keep stressing you out. And that's why this saying of, when life gives you lemon, make lemonade. It's not just cliche. It's a reminder that we have the power to turn challenges into opportunities, but only if we are willing to change our perspective. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us can be the best things for us, if we are willing to see it actually that way. So, what perspective will you choose today? Will you focus on what is missing in your life? Will you focus on what you already have? Will you let failure define you? Or will you see it as a stepping stone to something greater? Life is happening for us, not to us. Every setback is an opportunity for growth. Every challenge is an invitation to shift your perspective and find a new perspective. So remember that every day we have a chance to look at things differently, see beyond the obstacles, and to recognize the opportunities that lie just beneath the surface. So thank you for joining me in this episode. I hope you leave here today with a renewed sense of power, of perspective, and how it can change your life. Do not forget to share this episode with someone who may need it, a person who may need a fresh look of life, a person who may need a fresh perspective. So until next time, keep your perspective in check, choose happiness, and remember, life is what you make it. Life is happening for us and not to us. Thank you.